It's YouTube Wednesday.
What I'm working on today is we are taking a bluckie, which is a blow molded skeleton. And I'm actually doing a series of videos on making these look kind of cool. They take a little bit of work, but you can pick these guys up as cheap as $14. And for that kind of money, there's no reason not to use them, especially if you have to invest an hour or two in order to make them, really nice. Then it saves you about, $25 per body, per skeletal body that you want to do, if you just take the time to make one of these look nicer. One of the worst things about them, and there's lots that's bad, was the hands and feet. And I'm going to show you guys today how to fix the hands. This is like some kind of soft, flappy paddle appendage thing. It doesn't even resemble a hand at all. So, but you can modify this and not have to scrap it and make a cool looking hand. So let's get to it. Starting with the bluckie hand, it's easiest to work with them when they are off of the arm. Doesn't look terribly arm-like unless you have a hand on the end of it or it's attached to a body, but hey. So this is your piece. And normally I don't mark lines on it, but I'm going to use a marker and I'm going to show you guys where I'm cutting just so you guys can see a difference and see where I'm cutting exactly. I'm going to cut these fingers out. Right there. And that's going to go straight through to the other side. Okay, I'm using a pair of leather shears. Doesn't matter what you use. And there's in between the thumb and the finger, I'm going to cut as well. Okay. And now I'm going to pick, if this is a right hand, I'm going to pick the inside of the hand, basically. There's a right and a left. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this one to be a left hand. I'm going to cut it to be a right hand, actually. So if I cut it to be a, because they're either one, you flip it. If it's this way, it's one way. But now I'm going to make it so it's an actual hand. So this is going to end up being a right hand. And I'm going to cut across all those little cuts that I just made, which gives me something much more like fingers. Okay? What didn't come out, because of the way this is built, is the pinky. So now I'm going to cut the pinky right there, just right down the middle. So I always cut over when I cut across. This is not very hard. Alright, so now I have fingers, but I've got these giant nubs, which are cool looking knuckle bones, but they are, these were the ends of the fingers. I want to cut them so they're a little lower profile. So I'm just going to cut up a little bit more into that knuckle. And now if I extend this out, that does look like a knuckle bump, and that looks a lot more like a finger. So I'm going to go ahead and cut all these just that exact same way so I can fold them out. Hopefully you guys can see that it already looks 10 times more like a hand than what it used to. So now I have all my fingers out this way. I'm going to actually cut the fingertips into them. And you can go, you can just cut them into points so they're scary looking fingertips. And that's what I normally do, is I just cut them into a little more pointed. So that looks more like a bone end than, that flat cutoff that I did before. So now you have it looks a lot more like a hand, but I need to get a thumb on there, so I have to cut the thumb. The thumb is a little bit different because it's all by itself. I'm just going to cut around this way and then up that side. So here's how the thumb was, and then I cut this. So now I actually have a thumb that sticks out while these fingers are there. So just like this, that's kind of how this thumb is now. You know, it ain't perfect. Way better than it was. I gotta cut my thumb so it's a little sharper. And once you get the hand of this, you can, no pun intended, you can really knock these guys out. I'm going to use a heat gun real quick to just get the fingers to lay a little better, because right now they still want to go back into this old position. So I'm going to use a heat gun on this and smooth this sucker out. Okay, that looks much more like a hand now than it did before, except for on this side where it doesn't look much like a hand at all. So to fix that, I'm going to first glue this bit down. Some hot glue. Okay, hot glue is dry. This is nice and flat. And it's obviously a lot more skeletal-like, but it still doesn't quite, you know, ring the right way. So what I want to do now is just curve these fingers a bit. Just cut it so it gets wider at the knuckles. And this actually will go really fast once you get the hang of it. I'm kind of going slow and real step by step. Often I'll do all my cutting at once. I just want you guys to see all the differences, you know, of each step as we go. And I'm really defining all of the bones by doing this. Okay. Alright, so that's what I'm left with. And if you look at a skeleton's hand, that's we're pretty close. The layout is at least right. Kind of thinned up that thumb a little. And now, last step on this guy is I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to beef up the inside so this doesn't seem as flat. And I'm just going to do that with some liquid nail. This is actually Loctite construction adhesive. I can often find it a little cheaper than liquid nail, so I use it pretty often. I'm just putting something in here to thicken up those fingers. And if you want to get fancy with it, you can of course give an extra squeeze by the knuckles, you know, to make it look a little more full. You know, like two bones meet right there. Try and drag it off the end of the finger so that you don't have a big buildup right there at the end. And all that is for, it's for body. It's so when it's flipped over, it doesn't look all flat. So let's go ahead and just let that sit. I'm going to let that cure, and then I'll come right back to it.